What's good, family? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the biggest question for every team in the Western Conference. Now, some of these teams may have multiple questions about them heading into the season, but in this video specifically, I'm going to focus on the biggest and most important question for each of those teams. If you're new to the channel, make sure you smash that subscribe button to join the family, and without no further delay, let's go ahead and get into the first team, the Denver Nuggets. And the biggest question heading into next season for the Denver Nuggets is who will replace that Bruce Brown role? Bruce Brown was essential to the Nuggets being able to win that championship and be this dominant team they were this past season. I've been saying it for the past 2 seasons. Ever since Bruce Brown has been on the Brooklyn Nets, Bruce Brown is the best role player in the NBA. He can fill multiple roles for you. If you look at it, when he was on the Nets, he was acting as a screener and as just a corner shooter. Now with the Nuggets, he was basically the backup point guard to Jamal Murray and could even fill in and start some games. He started 31 games this past season. Now, a lot of people are saying that Christian Braun will be able to replace Bruce Brown, but I don't think that Christian Braun will be able to have the same effect that Bruce Brown did on the Nuggets. This is Braun's sophomore year, so automatically I do think there will be a drop off there. Now, a lot of other people are talking about the rookie sensation that the Denver Nuggets drafted, and that's Peyton Watson. They're saying that he'll be able to replace that Bruce Brown role. But to me personally, that's asking a lot out of a rookie. So we definitely need to keep our eyes peeled and figure out what the Denver Nuggets are going to do about that huge question mark and who will replace that Bruce Brown role. Number 2 on the list, we got the Memphis Grizzlies. The biggest question for the Memphis Grizzlies has got to be, how will Ja Morant's suspension affect the Grizzlies season? As we all know, because of Ja Morant's activities or whatever he decided to get into, he got hit with his 25-game suspension. That's a lot of games, you guys. That's a quarter of the season. And I know people automatically are going to talk about the Grizzlies bench and, oh, wow, look how good the Grizzlies were able to play without Ja Morant. But what people tend to forget when they're talking about the Grizzlies bench, especially now coming into this next season, is that Tyus Jones, who was essential to making that bench be successful, he will not be there this year. He's now gone. So that's going to be definitely something to keep our eyes open for and see, will the Grizzlies bench be as dominant as they have been these past years, because Tyus was the point guard that ran that second unit. I also think it's going to be hard to reinsert Ja Morant back into the lineup after that 25-game suspension. As I just mentioned, 25 games, that's going to be a quarter of the season. The Grizzlies can't just wait on Ja Morant. They're going to have to figure out a lineup to go. And then 25 games in, you're going to have to reinsert Ja Morant, such a big playmaking, ball dominant player. I definitely have my worries. So let's see how the Grizzlies are going to be able to maneuver, and let's see how this Ja Morant suspension will affect their season. Coming in at number 3 on this list, we got the Sacramento Kings. And the biggest question for them is, was it a fluke? And can you redo it? Now, a lot of people are counting out the Kings, saying that they just caught a lot of teams by surprise this past year. So that's why they were able to make the playoffs. Now, we all know the Kings have been on a long drought, a 16-season drought of not making the playoffs, and then all of a sudden, this last season, they become the 3rd seed. So I don't blame the naysayer and the haters who are counting out the Kings, because you want to see them be able to be consistent and do it. A lot of people, like I mentioned, are just saying they caught teams by surprise. They were playing with some house money. So now it's up to the Kings, and they got to answer the biggest question that they've probably had in their entire franchise is, can you redo it? Can you show the world that it was not a fluke? At number 4, we have the Phoenix Suns. And the biggest question for the Phoenix Suns is, how will this offense work? Now, the Suns are extremely top heavy. They have no true, real point guard, real true playmaker to be able to set up Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal for these easy buckets. So you mean to tell me that every single time down court, all season long, either Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, or Devin Booker is just going to have to go straight up, go get a bucket and go earn a bucket? While those guys are great generational players, that isn't a recipe for success. That's not a formula for success, to work out all season long and then counting the postseason. And after all, this team really has no depth. I mean, their second unit contains Saban Lee, Eric Gordon, Kate Bates Diop, and Drew Ebanks. This team has a lot of questions to answer. They're not very deep. So their biggest question coming into this next season has got to be, how will this very top heavy offense work? Coming in at number 5, we got the Los Angeles Clippers. And the biggest question for the Clippers is, can your two stars stay healthy when it matters most? Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have been on the Clippers together for 3+ years and have only played 24 playoff games together. If Kawhi Leonard and Paul George continue to do the whole injury management, load management, however you want to call it, if they keep doing that thing during the regular season, then it makes it tough for them to build any momentum as a team heading into the playoffs. And it also doesn't allow for your team to play together during the regular season and build that identity that most teams lean on during the playoffs. So for the Clippers heading into this next season, the biggest question for them is, can your two stars stay healthy when it matters most? When that playoffs are about to hit, baby. Number 6 on this list is the Golden State Warriors. And the biggest question for them is, how will Chris Paul fit and where will Chris Paul fit? Now, I've heard all sides of the spectrum from Warriors fans. I've heard he's going to be starting, he's going to be on the bench. In my opinion, he should come off the bench. But personally, I don't believe that's going to be a good fit for him, nor will it work out for the Warriors. Because if you look at it, Chris Paul has always played next to a dominant scorer, whether it be Devin Booker, whether it be James Harden, whether it be Shea, or even that entire Clippers squad. And he's always just been the point guard to just set them up. He's never truly been asked to be a real scoring option. But now on the Warriors, in my opinion, he's going to be on the second unit. Because if he's in that starting lineup, that is a very small and lineup that will get defensively exploited. So like I said, if he's in that second unit, he's going to be asked to be that scoring option, because that second unit consists of Moses Moody, Gary Payton II, and Kevon Looney. Those are all non-dominant scorers. So that means that Chris Paul, a player who's on the decline, is going to be asked to be that scorer for the second unit. Yeah, I personally don't believe in it. So I got a lot of questions. And the Golden State Warriors got to answer, how will Chris Paul fit and where will he fit? Coming in at number 7, we got the Los Angeles Lakers. And the biggest question for the Lakers is, what version of Anthony Davis will the Lakers get this year? Whenever I talk about Anthony Davis, I say one statement, and availability is the best ability. And that is the best way to describe Anthony Davis. Because when AD is on the court and playing aggressive on both ends, the Lakers can easily be a top team in the NBA. But the issue is, he struggles to not only stay on the court, but when he does stay on the court, he struggles to play consistently aggressive the entire time. He's a very inconsistent player. Anthony Davis alone can and will define the Lakers season, and that's why this has got to be the biggest question for the Lakers heading into the next season. And coming in at number 8, we got the Minnesota Timberwolves. Their biggest question heading into next season is, can the duo of Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns actually work? Karl-Anthony Towns missed a lot of time last season due to injuries, so we haven't yet got to see a full season of the duo trying it out. But from what we've seen so far, it hasn't looked so good. Another question that we could have went for the Timberwolves is, how big of a jump is Ant going to take this year? But the reason why I went with the duo of Cat and Rudy Gobert, and the reason why I went with that being the biggest question, is because if this Rudy and Cat duo does not work out, the Timberwolves may look like one of the dumbest teams of all time for pulling off that Rudy Gobert move after they had finally gotten to a spot in the playoffs. At number 9, we got the Pelicans. The biggest question for them heading into next season is, can Zion have a bounce back season and actually stay healthy? Zion and Brandon Ingram both struggle to stay healthy, but Zion injury struggles holds more weight to the Pelicans than Ingram's injury struggles. Now, I don't mean that literally because of Zion's weight, but I mean that in the sense of the Pelicans need Zion. And without him on the court, they play drastically different than when he is on the court. So the Pelicans, they're going to have to keep switching the way they play as a team. They're not going to have no consistency, and they're not going to be able to build any identity because of Zion's injury problem and his struggles to stay on the court. So the Pelicans are going to have to answer the question of, can Zion stay on the court and can he stay healthy? Coming in at number 10, we got the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the biggest question for them is, who's going to be your number 2 guy? The Thunder already got SGA. Shea's their number 1 guy. But who's going to be number 2? Is it going to be Chet Holmgren, your number 2 pick in the 2022 draft? Or is it Josh Giddey, a player who's proven that he can kill in the NBA level? Can't forget about their recent draft pick in Cason Wallace, which was the 10th pick. Or Lou Dort, and both through Jalen Williams. So we have to see. They have to answer a question of who is going to be SGA's co-star. Coming in at number 11, we got the Dallas Mavericks. And the biggest question for them is this current roster enough to win it all and make that Kyrie Irving trade worth it? Because what it's looking like to me is that they traded away a bunch of valuable pieces in Dorian Finney-Smith, who was essential for that team's defense, Spencer Dinwiddie, who was the second scoring option to that team behind Luka, and they traded away all those pieces, and they're still not enough. They're still short, and they're still not enough to win it all. To me, they're very slim. They're bad at the big position. Dwight Powell should not be your starting center for a team that's trying to contend. Off the bench, you'll have players like Maxi Kleber, Rashard Holmes, who they're good options, but again, it just simply is not enough for a team that's trying to accomplish what they're looking to accomplish. Now, I do like their new draft pick, Derek Lively, but let's be honest, how much will Jason Kidd play him? Number 12, we got the Utah Jazz, and the biggest question for the Utah Jazz is, how much will John Collins affect this team? This team last season finished as the 12th seed, but they are not a 12 seed type team. They just wanted to take part in that Wembanyama sweepstakes, so they tanked. But this year, especially with the additions of John Collins, they should take a big jump. Their starting lineup's going to be Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, Walker Kessler. And you'll still have players like THT, Kelly Olynyk, and don't forget about the rookies that the Jazz picked up in Keontae George and Taylor Hendricks. So this team will be much better this year than they were last year, but the real question remains, how much will John Collins have an effect on this team? Coming in at 13, we got the Portland Trailblazers, and the biggest question for them is, what's going to happen with Dame? Can you get a good enough deal in return for that Dame package to be worth it? Coming in at that 14 slot, we got the Houston Rockets, and the biggest question for them heading into this next season is, who's going to be your number 1 go-to guy? Seems like it's Jalen Green right now, but with the talent they have on this young team, it could be Jabari Smith Jr., could be Sengun, or even the 2 draft picks they took in Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore. These young teams need some type of direction and need to know who their go-to guy is, or else this is just going to look like another year of 24-hour fitness. Now, another big question I could have asked for this team would have been, how will Ime Udoka's first year goes? But I feel like figuring out who your go-to guy is definitely the biggest question for them right now. And last on our list is the San Antonio Spurs. The biggest question for them and the biggest answer for them is Victor Wembanyama. I don't even know if I pronounce his name right. I like to call him Wemby, and he's the question, he's the answer, he's the comment, he's everything to San Antonio right now. San Antonio, let's see how Wemby do in his first year. And that's all 15 teams for the West. Now, of course, if I do the West, you know I'm going to go ahead and do the East as well. So stay tuned for part 2 of this video where I'm going to be talking about the biggest question of every team from the East. But if you stayed along to the end, I appreciate you. You a real one. Like I said, make sure you smash that subscribe button to join the family. We love talking hoops over here. Go follow our socials, man. But for now, we out, and I'll catch y'all next time.